G'day and welcome to Daily Insights and Storytellings with me, Moon Willow. I'm going to start as usual with some housekeeping. If you haven't already, could you hit that subscribe button for me? If what you hear in my storytelling makes sense to you, hit the thumbs up. If it's way out there, hit the thumbs down. And if you know of anyone that may appreciate or benefit from the stories that I tell, please don't hesitate to share it out there. The more the merrier. So that being said, let's see what's coming out today. I have noticed, I noticed overnight that I still had dreams that were sort of more vivid, but it felt like it was a case of endings. So very much with the start of the week's full moon energy of endings, and especially in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment, we're sort of in winter, or certainly coming very much into that winter and very much going within. That's very much the energy up here in the north. But I have a feeling because of the full moon and everything that's occurring, that energy is reciprocated and very similar in the southern hemisphere. Although traditionally the sort of the summer is about coming out and being more active, but my sense is around the world at the moment that it is very much about going within at the moment and really getting that clear sense of self. And so although that's sort of like natural for this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, it's sort of a little bit unnatural in the Southern Hemisphere. But saying that, with that full moon energy that we had, and that was really powerful, and I think that's only really sort of starting to settle, because the full moon, the energies around the full moon sort of start coming into play a day or two beforehand and sort of stick around for a little bit longer. And that's my sense of it. And it's like, as those energies go back, as it were, we're sort of left scratching our heads, is the feeling I get. So she says, scratching her head. So what I noticed really overnight is that, so my dreams were very much of that full moon energy of completion. And the reason why I feel that is because I've woken up feeling clear-headed for the first time in a long time. And it's almost like that shift has occurred. So I'm not suggesting this is the same for everybody, because we all walk in our own way. It's a bit like a toddler. So it's a bit like a toddler who's learning to walk. We all have learnt to walk. Well, I assume we all have. There are obviously people with physical ailments and problems that don't necessarily walk in a traditional sense, but energetically they're walking, and we're all moving. So it's as the world presents, or the energies are coming in and we're shifting. So we're coming into the fifth dimensional sort of a higher vibration, and we're really pushing forward. So it's sort of like there's been a long gestation period, and this period has sort of bumbled along, as it were, and we're sort of some of us have been getting our head around it a little bit longer than others. Others are only just waking up and are really sort of feeling sort of traumatized, I guess, by it, because one minute you're in this nice comfy little cocoon, really, I guess, and then all of a sudden, sort of like with the full moon energies, as I was saying last week, that the full moon has really shone really brightly, and at the time the veils and the curtains, so the things that were shrouded in subjective ideas, hidden behind the scenes, having vague glimpses about what really is going off, on sort of like the darker energy level, and sort of like a psyop almost is what's going off in the world, is my feeling and sense of it. That the full moon just ripped back those veils and those curtains, and in that, although it's brighter and we can access those higher frequencies and feel quite buoyant, the other side, as it were, does not want us to feel buoyant, does not want us to connect with each other, doesn't want us to think outside the box, or have our own thought process or our own feelings that we need to be very fearful, very stressed, very worried, very concerned, and sort of toe the line. But when we become aware that there are other things at play, that is difficult to do. And it's almost like we're being bombarded even more by the other narrative, to keep us from being free. And we are all free beings. We all have the right to choose the way we live our lives completely. And there is people, elements of this world that does not want us to realize or recognize that fully. They want us to be in fear so that we don't dare breathe in the wrong way, and not notice that we can actually have enjoyment even in the circumstances that doesn't cost us anything, that actually frees us up and we can actually move through. I am aware that this may be a little bit confused. I'm very sorry, but this is all the stuff that's coming in at the moment. So as I say, I felt that shift last night. It's like the full moon at the beginning of the week has now done its job, and it's flooding, it's enabling that higher energy to actually come through, that lightness and that brightness, but that can be overwhelming as well, equally so. But it's almost like our subconscious and our unconscious elements of ourselves have finished, or in the process of finishing, sifting through the different stories that we've held for a long time. And as I've been saying on a fairly daily basis, that it is about sort of really going within and witnessing our stories, our narratives, and understanding where they came from, how they served us in the past, and whether they're going to continue being of service to us in the future, or are they going to trip us up? Are they actually going to be a negative influence? Are they actually going to hold us back to our divine right of freedom, to choose to actually have that higher vibration, to live within a society that we can be supportive of each other, that we have all got the basics, we're all entitled to the basics, having a roof over our head, having adequate food, having adequate water, having adequate energy. And there is energy out there, and it feels like the universe is really trying to give that to us. And it shouldn't be a squabble. We shouldn't be fighting for these basic rights. Nobody should be on this planet fighting for these basic rights. There's plenty for all of us. I truly believe that. I truly believe that there is more than enough for each one of us if we're prepared to share that. Whether that be sharing energy, sharing stories, sharing food, sharing water, we should all be able to actually live like that, is my belief system. But the other thing I've noticed today, although sort of like I've woken up feeling a bit more clear-headed, as the day's gone on, I felt like having energies coming in through my crown chakra and sort of like crackling going off in both my ears. And I recognize that as energies trying, or I don't know whether they're guides, I don't truly know. I have a sense of who I'm connected with. I know I have guides, and I know that I'm connected with them, and I know that they put thoughts in my head that sort of come out when I'm doing this storytellings. But I've really noticed an increase of that, especially today, and it's sort of like built up an internal pressure in my head, and it's almost given me a fuzzy head. And to clear that, I went for a walk. So I'm putting this out here not for any other reason other than I feel that if I explain my experience, that will resonate for yourselves out there and might shift or shed some light on what you may be experiencing and haven't got the words for at the moment. Because the thing is, if we're really, as I was saying yesterday, if we're getting ourselves really caught up in the doing of surviving, just going from A to B, sort of getting our days really filled up and not paying attention, we may be reacting to things like headaches or tiredness. We may end up feeling really grumpy because we haven't slept properly, even though we've known we've been in bed for long enough. So I'm just trying to put out my experience in the hope that that sort of sheds some light for some of you out there at the same time. And you may actually know this anyway, and it's nice to know that we're not alone, that most of us are experiencing very similar things. And if we've got pain as well, if we've got a headache, then that can actually make us feel prickly, and we won't have that clear contact with ourselves, and we won't have clear contact with other people when we try and do our day-to-day life and be in contact with other people. And equally, if we're having to isolate or stay more by ourselves, then that becomes more difficult because we're trying to cope on our own, and we don't always have the words or the language to actually reach out to somebody constructively, because it's hard to ring someone up and say, I don't feel right, and then they'll say, well, why? And you can't explain it. So there is a lot going off, and I can really feel that build up of energies. And although there has been a huge shift, and it really feels like a huge shift in the past sort of 12, 14 hours, I have a feeling that we're going to continue bobbing quite violently, I think, over the next few days. So it's just being aware that if you're having a conversation with someone and you're biting back, as it were, or snapping, that it's a case of looking in and trying to feel what it is about yourself, whether you're in pain, that you haven't had enough sleep, you're not feeling clear-headed, and you just can't connect with yourself and other people cleanly. And that's okay. It's just a case of then coming back and nurturing and looking after yourself, really grounding back into earth, grounding into yourself, and just looking after yourself. Self-care on all levels, on a physical, emotional, spiritual, behavioural, all of that. It's the whole package. So we will see whether that sort of relates, all of what I've just said relates to the crystals and the cards. I don't know. They come out. I see them at, So today we've got clear quartz. So very much crown chakra. And the other thing with clear quartz is clarity and clarification. And crystallization, it becomes crystal clear, is what's just come through for me. So very much, so as I said, I've had an increase of pressure around the top of my skull, which is crown chakra, and very much, excuse me, connecting with source and the collective energy. So the third eye is more about inwards and our intuition, connecting with our karma, our path, our soul path, etc. And it tends to be more internal and sovereign and more about ourselves. And yes, that also relates with how we relate externally. It always does. There's always that flow. But the clear quartz and the crown chakra is actually working out how to connect with these energies that are coming in a clear way. So really noticing that pressure really, and just linking up into source, into that universal, I was going to say melting pot, and in a way it is. But the thing with source, and you could call that God, goddess, it's not with a religion from my perspective, it's very much from a spiritual aspect, but it's that huge pot, I want to say, of source energy that is that divine being and our divine right. And as I was saying earlier, our divine right on this planet is free will. The one thing that all the different texts actually agree on is that we as humans have got the freedom to choose. We have got free will. And it's seeing that, it's having the clarity to see that we can choose how we respond to what's going off. We can choose to react in a way that suits us, and we can move forward into that sort of loving, divine, higher frequency way of being, where we can share and actually using that freedom as an individual to choose how we're living our lives, choose how we're reacting and relating to people and the world around us. That's where sort of like that full moon energy comes in from the beginning of the week. Then it's pulled back the veils and the curtains to such an extent that we have got the ability now to actually see things more clearly. We can choose to look away because it can become overwhelming and burdensome, actually seeing what's going off and what's underlying the main narrative. But at the same time, I feel it's really important that we do look and acknowledge that things aren't always as they appear to be. And it's about using our free will and clarity and unconditional love while we're looking at that, so that we can figure out what actually resonates for us, what feels true. So going back, and I know I keep saying it, but for me it's really, really key, is having that authenticity of self, so that we can have that authenticity in communicating with other people. So on that note, we'll see what cards sort of come out at the same time. So if you could focus on them for me, thank you. And now we'll split. Okay, that one felt like it needed to be on the top. Okay, so today we've got the house, coffin, and the book. So getting our house in order. So very much for me, as I say, when I do individual storytellings, the cards and the meaning of the cards are different to me doing the storytellings on here, because the storytellings I'm doing on here is for a collective purpose as opposed to an individual. Although I have a feeling that for certain individuals that are listening in, it'll resonate more deeply than for others. And that's just the way of it. So for me, the house is our body, and it's the house of our soul, and the body holds our soul. And we need to, so coming back into the clear quartz is actually seeing that clearly, seeing that our bodies are really just a vessel for our souls, and our souls have chosen to come in to this particular time, on this particular timeline, at this particular point in history, to play our part in it. And we all have a part to play. And as of yet, some of us may not be clear as to what our part is and what our path is, which is what the third eye was talking about the other day, was actually really getting a sense and going inwards so that we can start going down different paths, or feeling around the things that we're hearing, to see whether that actually brightens our soul or darkens our soul, so that we can actually make choices based on that sort of initial feel and gut reaction, so that we can know, have more of an idea as to how we're navigating our path and our journey. So again, it's very much about supporting. So we've been given free will. We have chosen to be here and now, to play our part. But within playing that part, it's to make sure that we're looking after our bodies to the best of our ability as well. Really honouring our bodies as well. And noticing if we're in pain. Noticing if it's not quite right, and actually allowing ourselves to rest and to heal, instead of pushing ourselves to an extreme that actually has a negative impact. Because the more stressed we are, the more fearful we are, the less inclined we are to make good choices about what we're putting into our bodies, how much we're working, how much we're resting. And that actually has a huge impact on our adrenals and our immune system, and actually puts us at risk of becoming unwell. And that actually can have another impact on us on an emotional and spiritual level, because if we're not able to function, then we may not be able to go and do our jobs, that we can start stressing about things like our bills, etc. And that then has another impact. And if we're isolating as well, or we're not in touch with people on a physical level, it is really important to reach out on another level as well, because we need that support. There are a lot of sayings, no man's an island, but there's a lot of indication that we as human beings are social creatures. We do need that contact. Some of us don't need as much contact as others, but the truth at the end of the day is we do need that contact to actually check out that we're okay. But it's also having that contact with source, because there is a lot of energy there, and that higher frequency. And our guides, we've got a lot of guides up there, whether we can hear them or not, it doesn't matter. If we reach out to them and ask for that help and support to help us navigate what's happening, then they will respond, and we will get a sense that they're there. So the next card is the Coffin. So it's like the death card in tarot, as I've said in the past, but it's a death of a way of being. So for me, what's coming through is that reminder that we don't have to do it by ourselves, and it is reaching out, but it's also Right, so what's coming through now is it's like a death of that way of being, that we have that feeling that we're unworthy, that we're meant to be living in stress, that we're not going to be good enough, that we haven't got the ability to connect with source, that we haven't got the ability to hear from our guides, that we haven't got that additional support network out there, and we have to continue to follow the main narrative, and that it's all doom and gloom and it's never going to come right and we're never going to go back to where we were, all that sort of crap. Excuse my French, but definitely crap. So within this, what's really coming through is that as we support ourselves, as we support our homes, our bodies and our souls by reaching up to source, that we're actually letting go of that fear. And actually, when we're pulling back the curtains that we did from the full moon, that we are actually letting go of the old illusions, the illusions that we've been given since we were brought up, that things have to be a certain way, that it's always the case that there isn't enough for everybody. It's letting go of that, because there definitely is. It's letting go that some people are meant to be lording it over or power over other people. Letting that go, we can empower each other. Nobody has to be more equal than somebody else. We're all equal. And we all have that freedom to be. And we have been given that free will. So it's actually letting go of that thought that we haven't got choice. We always have choice. We always have the choice to choose how we react, how we respond, how we feel. So it's letting go of that. That's very much what's coming through at the moment around that. And then the last card is the book. So things waiting to be revealed. And so very much there is still more to come, that not everything's come through yet. Yes, the veils are going back. Yes, the curtains are open. Yes, more and more is coming to the surface. And we're having to deal with that on a minute by minute basis almost. And in that, we can end up wanting to hunker down inside and just say none of that exists, and really hide away like a just like a hermit. And it's letting go of that as well. It's letting go of that belief that you're not good enough, because you are good enough. We are all worthy. We all have those. We all have something to bring to the table. And the more that we connect with source, the more that we request our higher self and our guides to help guide us, the more we notice the synchronicities and start moving with that higher frequency. Even if it's like having a muzzy head and feeling your crown chakra tingle, it's acknowledging that. And it's like, yes, I can feel you. I don't know exactly what you're trying to say to me, but I can feel you. It's acknowledging that. It's becoming more acceptable. And it's letting go of those doubts. It's letting go of the doubts that you're not good enough, because you are. And it's more that as time goes on, the book will reveal, more things will be revealed. And as they're revealed, because you're actually coming from a more solid space and a more energized space, a more nurtured space, the more you can take on board, and you won't be overwhelmed by it. You won't be lost by it. You will be able to see clearly. So very much coming back into that clear quartz, that everything will become clarified and crystal. It'll become crystal clear. And as you continue to walk forward, you will have more of a sense about what it is and how you're going to play your part in all of this. And it is just trusting that the information that's coming in will actually help bring clarity as to how it is you're going to further progress forward. But in the meantime, it's really looking after your home, your body, so that it is, you can forgive yourself if you're feeling a bit narky because you've got a headache or you haven't slept well. It's just changing the internal dialogue around it. Instead of giving yourself a hard time, Be curious about it. Ask yourself what it's to do with. Why am I feeling like this? I can't quite hear you, but I'm prepared to listen. Noticing things, noticing that it is brighter at the moment, how your mood is on a day where it's really light as opposed to when it's dark, knowing that if you're feeling sadder or more pressed down, oppressed because it's raining outside or it's darker, it's noticing and acknowledging that, because in acknowledging that it will end up feeling lighter. So I'm hoping that this makes sense to people out there. Thank you very much for joining me through all of this. This was a long one. Seems to be quite a bit wanting to come through tonight. But saying that, we'll still find the energy song or sound song or vocalization, whatever we want to call it. I'm never sure, but we'll see what sound comes through to match up with today's storytelling. So thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. The energies are feeling a little bit lighter, and it's like very much with that clear quartz that things are becoming clearer, that we still haven't quite fathomed everything out yet, but that's okay, because we're beginning to look at it with clearer eyes, and the more we've done that work within, the less that gets in the way of what we're looking at, that we're actually looking at it from a holistic point of view as opposed to fractured point of view because of previous experiences. And that's part of what that internal work's all about, is being able to see things much more clearly and having that connection with source, so that gives us the extra energy to go forward. So thank you very much for sticking with me throughout the whole thing today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. In the meantime, take care. Love you all. Bye.